A federal judge just unloads on Bob Mueller's legal team, suggesting that they're lying and only out to get Trump. Does that sound familiar? District Judge T.S. Ellis is hearing the case against former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort in the Eastern District of Virginia. And in court today, he blasted the special counsel's legal team, questioning their motives and even their honesty. Ellis told prosecutors, "You don't really care about Mr. Manafort. You really care about what information Mr. Manafort can give you to lead you to Mr. Trump and an impeachment or whatever." The judge demanded to see the so-called scope memo outlining the range of Mueller's Russia probe. And when prosecutors objected it is unrelated material, Ellis retorted, "I'll be the judge of that." And then he added, "We don't want anyone in this country with unfettered power. It's unlikely you're going to persuade me the special prosecutor has the power to do anything he or she wants. The American people feel pretty strongly that no one has unfettered power." Well, a delighted President Trump broke news of the hearing to the NRA annual meeting in Dallas this afternoon.
A highly respected judge in Virginia made statements. It says, Wall Street Journal, it says, "Judge questions Mueller's authority to prosecute Manafort." Judge T.S. Ellis, who is really something very special, I hear from many standpoints, he's a respected person, suggested the charges before the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia were just part of the Mueller team's designs to pressure Mr. Manafort into giving up information on President Donald Trump or others in the campaign. I've been saying that for a long time. It's a witch hunt.
Well, let's review these developments with House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. We have a lot to talk about with him. Chairman Nunes, it's good to see you. T.S. Ellis, I know very well. He is a senior judge in the Eastern District of Virginia. I remember a long time ago I interviewed with him. I think I even argued a case before him at one point. Very well respected, appointed by President Reagan back in 1987. But he was brutal on the counsel who was arguing the case, Michael Dreeben, who is the basically a deputy solicitor general who's now in the Mueller office. What were your thoughts on his comments about how this is really outside the scope of the Mueller authority?
I was astonished by the comments the judge made today, although it's not surprising. Everything in this case, Laura, has just gone off the rails. There's not a day that goes by that something new, crazy, doesn't break. You know, finally, just today, we were able to get the 2 pages that we needed, that we now know that Comey and McCabe did in fact say that General Flynn, the agents that interviewed General Flynn didn't think he was lying. Now, we listened to Mr. Comey over the last 3 weeks run around saying just the opposite. So you have the judge saying that they're lying, that the Mueller team's lying. You now have the case where we now know that Mr. Comey has been lying out there publicly. This continues to just, I think, it's bewildering, quite frankly.
Now, Congressman, Jim Comey basically decided to override the agents, including Peter Strzok, who, we focus on Strzok's texts with Lisa Page and maybe as an animus against President Trump. But I believe, unless I'm wrong, I believe Peter Strzok was one of the agents who interviewed Mike Flynn. And we had heard this from some time, now confirmed that Mike Flynn didn't lie. At least it was up to them, meaning poor Mike Flynn, they had twisted the screws on him to plead guilty to a false statement in order to, like a lot of people do, save their family, save their whatever money they have left. And meanwhile, Comey's going around saying, oh, no, he lied. And this is, it's wild. Why would he override the agent? That's my question.
Well, look, this isn't new news to us on the Intelligence Committee. This has been the problem of all these issues that they keep classified from the American people. So we knew this very shortly after the interview took place. The interview where the FBI agents went into the White House and interviewed Mr. Flynn. Shortly after that, Mr. Comey comes and briefs us. That's on the record. I know he also briefed other committees. So on the record, we knew what Mr. Comey said. We had the transcripts. We have been fighting with the Department of Justice and the FBI for 6 weeks to release this information to the American people. We finally have it tonight, late on a Friday night. This is totally unacceptable. You have the judge from this morning. This is just continued ridiculous behavior. It's like they just want to keep digging, and the American people are beginning to understand that the Department of Justice and the FBI have major problems. I have no idea how they can investigate themselves, but evidently they continue to believe they can. But they have so many more documents that they have to provide to us that we needed like yesterday, and I hate to have to continue to come out publicly and talk about this, that we are still missing documents important to our investigation.
Yeah, let's remind everyone. A few weeks ago, you were on the show. I believe it was a Friday night, if my memory serves me correct. Maybe it was a Thursday night. And you essentially threatened Rod Rosenstein with contempt of Congress or impeachment if the underlying document, the computer document that authorized the probe of the spying on Carter Page, surveillance on Carter Page, wasn't released. He did finally then release that, Congressman Nunes. However, now you're getting slammed in response by CNN and now others that you ask for these documents, and then you, Devin Nunes, have a staffer read them. You don't read them. So how serious are you? You just want to help the president. You're not even reading the documents. What about that CNN report that came out today?
Yeah, so look, I enjoy being attacked. The first thing I will tell you is whatever CNN and the New York Times write or talk about, I don't read their information, I will tell you that. We're not going to get into the specifics about how we conduct our investigation, but I will tell you, Laura, and I've said this numerous times on your show and others, is that Mr. Gowdy is our lead investigator. Mr. Gowdy is the one who reviews all the initial documents with our investigators. I'm not going to get into the processes that we use, but as the chairman of the committee, when they need documents, they come to me. We use the power that we have vested in us by the Constitution to try to force the Department of Justice and the FBI to comply with these document requests.
I know, but you can see the criticism, Congressman. I'm trying to help you. Yeah, I'm trying to help our viewers understand this, though. When they come after you and say, Nunes is getting these documents, I think a lot of people want you to have these documents, then you don't read them, it opens you up to criticism. So, I mean, I don't understand why it compromises the investigation for you to say, I read the documents that are necessary to do this investigation, and I consult with my staff on the, on the primary documents, but I read them. So I don't understand why your reluctance to say whether you read them or don't read them. I don't get that.
Well, look, this is, first of all, what they're talking about there in that is it's a page and a half. What specifically we were looking for in that, as you may remember, is we're investigating the State Department. We are looking for any official intelligence that came across through the Five Eyes channels. That's what we were looking for. That was not in the document. So at this point, we have other lines of inquiry that we're going down. We have a subpoena out there, and so this is why we can play process games all the time, but all day long. But at the end of the day here, we continue to have our investigation blocked. We continue to have to deal with the disinformation campaigns.
Well, and this is what the left always does. Just so, I mean, everyone who watches this show understands, because they've done it to me. They've tried to. When you're effective and when you're holding people accountable, and if you're conservative or if you've ever supported the president, you are a target. And so that's why, all the articles floating around about you and Paul Ryan should take you off the committee. That was a couple of weeks ago. It's predictable. I want to read for you a comment by Eric Lichtblau about what's happened to the FBI. He said, many view Trump's attacks as self-serving. He's called the renowned agency an embarrassment to our country and its investigations of his business and political dealings as a witch hunt. But as much as the Bureau's roughly 14,000 special agents might like to tune out the news, internal and external reports have found lapses throughout the agency, and longtime observers looking past the partisan haze see a troubling picture. Something really is wrong at the FBI. Now, that's not Devin Nunes saying that. That is Lichtblau saying it.
Yeah, this is what I've actually conveyed this to Director Wray. He has a tough job to do. He needs to clean the place up. I've said this also publicly. We don't see a systemic problem out in the field with field agents or with people overseas that are doing very difficult work trying to track down terrorists and other bad guys. Where we do see a problem is in Washington, D.C. Now, to Director Wray's credit, you have seen many of the Comey-era people have been excused. That's a good sign.
Good.
What would be even better is if Director Wray made sure that we get this information that we need in a timely manner.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.